part of feeling what's enough is accepting what we can't change, accepting what's true, listening to what's true. In a world where everyone is screaming at us something they insist is true, and they all sound different, and it sounds like a monstrous, cacophonous machine, it's very difficult to be still enough to hear what is for you in your body this day enough. So what are some of the things that we have to accept? You can only love so many people well in a human life. How many eggs can you hold in your hands? When we're young and our hands are growing, we can pick up this colorful egg and that exciting egg and this stimulating egg. And at a certain point, regardless of how large our hands, there's a certain number of eggs we can hold, and one more egg will make something break. We live as if we can carry as many eggs as we want. And so a lot of things that we love get broken. Because at a certain point, if we do not put down an egg before we take something else into our life, things will fall and get damaged. People will go hungry. One of the things we have to accept is that we can only love well, kindly, thoroughly, a very few number of people in the course of a human life. Everyone's number might be different, but it's not 1 billion. It's probably not even 3 digits. But we try to be as available and accessible and loving as we possibly can and keep taking on one more. And at a certain point, we feel lost and confused, and it's because our heart can't hold that many things. So it's an admission of defeat that we can't heal everything broken. How many eggs can you hold? So what can we do? How can we begin to hold for one another some crucible of something small and true where we can start and say, let me start with this. This breath is enough. This single act of visiting someone who's frightened and alone is enough. I'm not going to cure loneliness, but I am going to sit with you. I'm not going to cure hunger, but I'm going to feed you. I'm not going to cure hatred, but I'm going to love you, and that's enough. Not because more wouldn't be better, but because I don't have more unless I lie to myself and to you. So how do we examine together this call? Because the world will always be filled with people who are poor and sick and frightened and lonely and mistreated and bombed and killed and abused and harmed in every conceivable and often inconceivable way, and we will not stop it in our lifetime. That doesn't mean we don't try, but it doesn't mean that we abuse the kindness in our heart for not being sufficient to the impossible. The seed we plant is just a story. You take a seed for a eucalyptus tree and you plant it in the ground, or it plants itself, because they're pretty good at that. And there isn't like a tiny little eucalyptus tree in there that when you add water grows to 10,000 times its original size. What's in there is just a story. And the seed tells the story to the earth, who tells it to the sun, who tells it to the rain, how to make a eucalyptus tree. And the soil remembers, and the sun remembers, and the rain remembers, and together they grow a eucalyptus tree, and the seed has in it just enough nourishment to stay alive long enough to tell its story. We have but a handful of seeds in this life to plant, and whatever we have been given to plant is enough. Can we make peace with that? Not by ourselves, we can't. We need the clear, loving mirror of one another's generous, unfettered, fearless company, offering mercy and compassion, relentlessly pouring like water on a stone the blessing of sufficiency. You are enough. Another thing I was just thinking about was back in the 1980s, I ended up sort of the de facto chaplain in the AIDS community in Santa Fe, because there were several faith traditions that experienced some kind of theological confusion around whether it was all right to visit people who had this particular disease. And so I ended up as sort of the chaplain in a lot of different traditions, and ended up holding the space for a lot of memorial services. And I, after a while, started to wonder, well, why do we just keep doing these services over and over again? And we're not bringing anyone back to life. We're not curing the illness. We just weep the same tears and say the same things. And I finally had to make peace with the fact that every once in a while we just have to hold one another for no other reason than we need to hold one another. Because we don't know how to fix anything or make anything bad go away, but we do know how to hold a clear mirror of fierce courage